I don't know if some of the younger folks will realize this, but when Darling in the Franxx came out, it was pretty controversial. And I mean, it's still pretty controversial now that I think about it. It's undeniably the most influential original mecha anime in quite some time, at least since Code Geass or Gurren Lagann. Most of the big mecha shows have those long-running franchises that have just kind of kept going, and then in comes this original series. I mean, if you really want to call it original. I've seen a lot of people call it Evangelion if Evangelion were incredibly stupid, and I heartily disagree with that reading. Darling in the Franxx is imperfect. I won't argue with that. But I think a whole lot of people have been misreading it. And I'm about to tell you why you personally have been misreading the show and why it doesn't actually completely fall apart after the 15th episode. That's right, crap damn, you're wrong about Darling in the Franxx. Crap damn! Now, if for some reason you avoided finding out about this show in just like 8 years ago or so when it was really popular, Darling in the Franxx is a mecha series that definitely isn't trying to crib off of other more successful shows that came before it, right up to and including the Asuka versus Rei waifu wars. That follows a kind of bland main character named Hiro and his life changing when he teams up with a possibly part dinosaur girl named Zero Two. Zero Two was basically created in a figure selling lab of what would happen if you took Asuka from Evangelion and combined her with Lum from Urusei Yatsura, and then you just got the most marketable waifu ever, up to and including being a weird tsundere, but also extremely clingy, and also having horns and saying darling all the time, but she can't fly, so Lum is still better. Anyway, so this series is not well known for its animation. It's well known for just how incredibly horny it is. Like, this show is just constantly... Look, this is how the cockpits work. I mean... calling it a cockpit feels a little on the nose, don't you think? So, this is a show that sometimes gets a bad rap because those first 15 episodes are pretty beautifully animated, and while there's some kind of uncomfortable undercurrents throughout it, it seems like it's going to be an interesting, albeit very, very, very horny mech show in the tradition of other conspiracy-laden mech shows. And then a lot of people, the critical consensus is it falls apart definitely after the midway point, and for certain when aliens show up. A lot of people like to try to blame my folks over at Trigger for doing this, which I hate when people do, because, spoiler warning, Trigger didn't actually work on the tail end of the show. This was a collaboration between Trigger and Cloverworks, so Cloverworks took the point for episode 16 onward. Trigger only worked on the first 15 episodes, which is why those episodes have evocative lighting and beautiful animation and all the things that make Trigger shows really good. And it kind of felt like as soon as Trigger left the room that the show kind of fell apart. The storyboarding got really flat, the lighting wasn't interesting anymore, the politics swerved into this weird Shinzo Abe, let's have as many births as possible sort of thing. The kind of thing that my, soy-brained leftistness should have me be opposed to. And maybe I am opposed to that, but I'm still going to tell you why I think the ending of Darling in the Franxx holds up. Now, do I think that the animation dropping in quality is a problem? It's not that big a deal. Who watches anime for animation's sake? And I mean, sure, is there a big villain who's kind of introduced you at the end who's a nothing burger that they immediately shove aside so that they can have aliens come in the last few episodes out of nowhere? Yeah, you could say that that's a problem, I guess, is the weird obsession with natalism and young people getting pregnant, super creepy, off-putting, and signs of the weird right-wing government that Japan continues to struggle with. Absolutely. But these should not stop you from recognizing the cinematic references that Darling in the Franxx is making, and you need to recognize. See, yeah, all that stuff does happen. It gets weirdly fixated on getting these teenagers pregnant. The animation quality drops precipitously. There's suddenly aliens, and that's the whole point of the show. All of these, you could say, are problems. But then, something happens near the end. Something magnificent. You see, like I said, bland protagonist hero and waifu designed in a laboratory 02 go into space. And this is after they've had a really, rocky relationship. Things have gotten in the way. Whether or not they're going to end up together was so damaging to members of the fandom that people were sending death threats to Kana Ichinose for reading the script that someone wrote for her. It was messed up. The shippers were hardcore on this one. But after all of this, Hiro still decides to go into space with 02 to fight monsters. And there's a reason that this is such a big change. Now, Hiro is all for 02. He's obsessed with her. But for a while there, it seems like they can't be together because she's a weird dinosaur person and he's not. And, is that mean that they're just doomed to never be together? Is he not meant for her? Can that happen? But then, as they travel through space, as they fight the aliens in increasingly less satisfying to watch battle sequences, Hiro starts growing his own little horns. And before you know it, he's turning into his own, weird dinosaur monster. Dare I say, with the little horns coming out of his forehead, a horny dinosaur monster, like 02. The truth is, even though they thought that those surface level things would prevent them from being together, they were just like each other. They were always just like each other. I think about another movie, one of the greatest films of all time, where the same thing happened. That's right. This is just like one of the greatest movies ever made. Shrek. Now, some of you who might not remember great film might be thinking, what are you talking about, Cell? Celle? You idiot? You colossal buffoon? Why would you even bring up Shrek? Because it's the same story. Don't you see? Shrek is also the story about an outsider, someone who's physically different and falls in love with someone who he thinks is too beautiful, too normal, too human to be with him. But then it turns out, oh, Fiona's not too human. She's not too normal. She's also an ogre, just like Shrek. Just like Hiro becomes a pointy-eared, horny dinosaur for 02. That's right. That's right. This was about Shrek the whole time. You dirty plebeians have been wanting to crank your hog to Shrek, and that's the real problem. That's why you monsters don't understand. That's what you monsters...
No! Bad, silly! Bad! I came home from the hospital from the appendectomy for this! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it. Everyone, I apologize for that. I've taken care of the situation. Yeah, I was actually in the hospital They don't give these away to anyone. I know, I checked. My appendix came out pretty well. I no longer have it. And I'm not dying anymore. Though I do have Shrek's teeth. It's very sad.